Shalom, Salama, Siemi, Shalom. Greetings, my brothers and sisters, my Israelite brothers and sisters throughout the world, whether you are of the bloodline or you are grafted in through the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach. There's something about being covered under the blood. And whether you are of the bloodline, you have to be covered under the blood. Because that's where we are all subject to. And it's funny because as I'm seeing this awakening taking place in all forms and fashions, I quickly understood why the Most High would be dealing, with his people in the wilderness. Because you have to think about the struggles that we have had as a people and where that brings us to. You know, we had been looking at Christmas. The debate has been about Christmas. And this is the time of the year where you have the quote unquote holiday season, the Christmas season, things of that nature. And, for the longest, if you haven't been awakened to who you are, then you're going to do all the things that the world wants you to do. And if you're doing things of the world, then guess what you're not doing? You're not doing the things that the Most High is needing or requiring. See, I'm not here to say that if you have your Christmas tree up, if you put your Christmas lights on, that's going to condemn you. I'm not going to say that. But what I am going to say is that there's already a condemnation that's occurring right now. And the reason that it's occurring, even right before I got on this article or this recording, I was talking and emailing Minister Yakoba about certain things that's going on right now. And I simply asked the question. I said, you know what? I said, honestly, we may be under attack right now. So, so I said, well, Father, let me hurry up and get this video on out. Because you have to understand the world is moving and shifting quickly. And that's what I've always contended. I don't know how much longer I may be able to get these videos on out. I don't know how much longer as a community we may be able to have access to these platforms. Or the internet in general. Because if you had noticed just a few hours before this had happened, a couple of things were being shown, were being mentioned in certain news channels. And honestly, I wasn't going to talk about this just because I didn't really want to tangent or divert from my message. But I think that this is more appropriate because I had to realize when the Most High had just put this on my heart, not even 10 minutes ago, he put these verses on my heart. Mark 3:25 and Matthew 12:25. And it's showing that a house divided against itself shall not stand. And so you have to understand that the heart of the nation that we're dealing with, it's being divided and torn up because there were certain standards that was allowed to be upheld. And so when I have and on this channel I'm not going to say different, but I like to say that this channel is an ever increasing and moving journey of what we see as a transition from what we have been doing to where we are going. Because I'm telling you, as each day happens, the Most High, He reveals things to me that I look at, I decipher, and because based on the experiences that the Most High has given me, He lets me see things in a different spectrum, a different prism, a different light. And that's what we have to do as a nation because the Most High is allowing us to see these things. See, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, He is moving tremendously throughout this age. Yeah, are we getting laid off? Are we not having jobs? Absolutely. But you have to understand what always happens in a transition period. Did Israel just up and leave their jobs when Moses said, I'm here? Absolutely not. You have to remember that Israel had to progressively see the Most High work. And so I was looking at an article yesterday, and the compiler that I look at, they quickly scrub those articles that have to do with anything racial or a racial component because, like I had mentioned on my last video, I said, the Most High is moving not just amongst us, but amongst these other nations. And He is twisting the screws. He's using enhanced interrogation techniques. And He is twisting that arm back so much, you can see it's about to snap. And so when it's about to snap, guess what happens? You start feeling the pressure. And when you start feeling the pressure, you start to do whatever you can do to alleviate the burden and the pain. You start to say, okay, what else? What do you need me to say? What have all my wrongs been? What do I need to expose of myself? Because you got to remember, see, when the strong man is the Most High. In this particular context, the strong man that's twisting this nation's arm, that's the Most High. And you have to realize that the heart of this nation was always, well, I am a victim. I am a victim. You're not the victim. I'm the victim. See, this is where we have that house divided. It ain't fall. It's not going to stand. It's going to fall. And see, the reason that the house is divided is because you have certain people that actually understand what's happening. They won't tell you the full truth, but they understand the full truth. But the thing is, as that happens, now you have people that want to fight those other people because they may divulge too much. No, you're about to be off code. So I need you to stop what you're doing. I need you to come back into the fold. And these folks are saying, look, if I come back, what does that profit me? Come back to what? Everything is getting ready to be destroyed. Because you want to know what? You know, when destruction comes, you feel it in your bones. I look at certain websites. I was looking at one website the other day, and it was saying, 6.7%, that's laughable for the unemployment rate. And a lot of the people are like, well, yeah, somebody misplaced that zero, that decimal point. Because you got to remember, just because what somebody tells you does not mean that it's actually reality. And I had to understand where the UA community was coming from. Because here's the thing, if you don't have an empathy for the folks that you're trying to reach, you're never going to reach them. Because you always have to understand what their point of view is. And their point of view is simply, look, you're not a victim because you're through Christ. It's a simple, it's a simple statement, and I understand it. Because you have to remember that's what the church had said. And you also have to understand that's actually not what Christ had said. Because if you read the word, when Christ is up on that, is up getting ready to die, what did he say? He said, look, reap not for me, but for what? Your children. The children were going to be those future generations. Those future generations were going to be a nation. That nation was a people group. See, what I had said the last time, uh, I was I was talking to my mom about this, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, think about this. If you're running a company or an organization, who gets blamed for that company's performance? And she had said, well, the employees, right? I said, yeah, potentially, ultimately, yeah. I said, but really, it's not the employees, it's always the management, it's always the leadership. Because if you don't have good leadership, then guess what you don't have? You don't have the ability to properly communicate your intentions down to your employees of what you need to have for that success. And I said, and who also gets it the worst? Management. Because management has a lot more to lose. than the employees. So I said, now think about our case as being the children of Judah. Think about our case that we can now, excuse me, trace back our lineage to being the sons and daughters of David, of Dawid, here in America. Think about that. We've already seen that with the pews. That's the whole argument of the pews. And let me tell you, I have family from that area, about 30 miles away. So we all understand where our bloodline comes from and leads from. That's why it was such an effort to try to divide us up, because ultimately we already know who we came from and where we came from. Because if we know who we came from and where we came from, then we know where we're going. See, the problem that we had in this nation was, oh, y'all are just, some black folks that were just swinging from a tree, looking like Tarzan, and we came on over you, and we came over, we saved you, and we gave you this awesome life in America. And you got to remember, because it was told to us, a lot of people believe it. That's called psychological conditioning. I've conditioned your mind to receive my message. And so you have to understand that's also how the enemy works within this nation. I've told you what happens with our emotions. That's the same thing God said to Cain. What happens with your emotions? Don't let your emotions overtake you, because if it does, you will be the servant, and the emotions will master you. That's exactly what the Most High said to Cain. And then what did Cain do? He ended up killing Abel. Because eventually our emotions, when left unchecked, it leads us to destruction. And this is what we had been speaking about. If you look at a couple of my videos about a month or two ago, I was speaking on emotions very heavily, because you have to understand that's how the enemy has always associated things. If I'm right, I'm going to give an emotional response to ensure that you always think I'm right even when I'm wrong. So what happened to our forefathers? They were beaten, they were killed, they were skinned alive. So there was an emotional attachment of the historical implications that was going on. And what do you see that concreted with? You see it concreted now with Black folks dying from police, from with Black folks, especially a Black person up in Georgia, dying, being lynched. This is just recently, around the 12th, 13th, that article had come out. As I'm speaking to you today, the 14th of December. We understand that this is how that reinforcement was done, because that's how our family members were conditioned. And this is strong conditioning. This is strong conditioning. Ask them folks in North Korea why they don't stand up, why they don't, quote unquote, destroy and defeat the powers of darkness on over there, because they understand it. I can't do anything. I am going to get killed, and if this is my destiny, then so be it. Because sometimes people groups really do understand who they are as a people. That's why, as much as we don't like the situation that we're in, we're not going to be in this situation forever. And you understand that's why they're really scared, because in their minds, we should never have even woken up. Having people cite the scriptures, having people look at our history, our genetics. They want to say science and data, and then we give them the science and data, and they act all confounded. They look at the science and data from Pfizer, and they don't even ask any questions. But you give them science and data from out of our mouths. Hey, look, this is what's happened. This is the data, this is the results. Even though it's not as popularly said or distributed amongst the mainstream media, these are still the results. This is still the data. This is still the science. So when we explain that, somehow it always seems as though we're having things fall on deaf ears. And then they begin to be mute. And then they begin to convulse. And they throw themselves into the fire. And I'm segueing, because this is where I wanted to get to. I'm segueing because last week I was talking to my dad, and I was telling my dad, about the relationship with my wife, and I was explaining to him. I said, it was interesting, because social media and things had gone on, and what she had been posting, and it was funny, because as I was looking at, and I never had a presence on Facebook and things of that nature. I would just create my little profile, and I wouldn't really keep up to date with that. And that was just the nature of the business that I was in. But a lot of the stuff that we see today is indicative of the spirit that's over this nation. And I'm not limiting it to women, because the spirit is in men and women. It's a spiritual consequence that we have. If you look at it, it's actually a curse straight from out of Deuteronomy 28. And I understand you have to listen to me. Our curses are now aligning on to them. This is why they really can't understand when we talk to them, when we explain things to them, their minds are going to the fact of, well, look at me. Look at what I'm at. Look at my position. Look at my circumstance. Because when you look at Romans chapter 10, we have to understand what the concept of foolishness is. And foolishness is simply just ignorance and a lack of understanding. That's foolishness. It's the concept of ignorance or a lack of understanding. And so that lack of understanding was really what drove us to jealousy, and driving us to jealousy. That's really, it's like, look, what is wrong? What are we doing? Why are we cursed as a people? And then that's when the Most High, that's when he'll talk to you. That's when the Holy Spirit will just touch you or speak to you or do whatever that you had asked to reveal what was going on. And so when all these curses had started to not just come off of us, but it started to come on them. It started to backfire on them. See, for the longest time, it was a campaign to ruin our marriages. It was a campaign to ruin our relationships between a man and a woman. And if you don't see that, that agenda is real because that's where your family unit is. And I remember I had said something so prophetic. I said, if that's the direction that you're going in, even right now, because my wife had grown up in the church, Eurocentric, obviously. But I said, now, if that's the direction that you can't try to work on whatever the what ails us, if you can't even discuss it, because I would invite her, look, let's go to therapy. Let's go to this. Let's even try to talk about it. I don't want to talk. You don't get it. And I said, yeah, I understand. I already understood the crux of the problem. I understood the crux of the problem. Because you have to understand at that time, I knew what she was going through, and I understood there's a lot of baggage that had occurred. And that baggage wasn't necessarily what I had brought in, but that was what we had experienced because of some things, some personal things that had happened to her. And you have to understand, I understood the personal things that happened to her as being her husband and trying to do things and trying to solve them in the spiritual, or excuse me, in the natural, did not solve a spiritual problem. And see, you have to understand, see a lot, and listen up, Gentiles, because I'm not trying to pick on you, but I want you to understand this. A lot of the problems that the Gentiles have is that they don't understand it's a spiritual component to their issues. And that spiritual component is what leads to that natural. That's why I always say, look, it's a spiritual, it's a spiritual, it's a spiritual. Then you're going to see the natural fruits bearing witness. And see, I could see what was happening. I understood what was happening. And I know that the Most High, He had to push things into our direction because I understood, okay, let me keep going. Because my zealousness was for the Most High. Straight zealousness. And then when I had said, look, it's not it's not me, but I'm learning who I am. I'm learning that we're the people. Oh, that sent her over the edge. And I couldn't understand it at first, but then I realized that's just a spiritual reaction. Because see, the problem with all the stuff and with vanity that we have here, it is a spirit of vanity that's in everybody. And so as I go back and talk about the posts that we see today of well, I don't stay in the problem because I just walk away from it and my life is good. Or uh for those things that I had to deal with, I leave them behind in the driver's seat, or I don't even look at the rear view mirror, or I just keep doing this, or I just keep moving forward, or if somebody's in my way, I just discard them. I said, man, I'm looking at these things, and these are the most demonic bumper stickers I've ever seen. These are the most demonic posters I've ever seen. Because you want to know why? A house divided against itself will fall. So if you can't talk to me, you just leave. If you can't talk to somebody, you just leave. Okay, that's great. Now look at the nation right now, because it's in peril. Because they subscribed to a demonic apparatus. Don't believe me? Look what they're doing right now. I'm not making it up. So when we're looking at this and understanding this, you see how the culture was always shifting towards peril and destruction and disaster. So believe it or not, I don't think people are seeing it. We're looking at an economic disaster. No, we're not looking at things blowing up and things of that nature. Mm-mm. First, the economic disaster, then the physical disaster. Because you're starting to see people are driving themselves towards the brink. They're trying to work too hard to make ends meet. They're trying to get back to what they've lost. The glory of the empire is gone. And then you ask, well, why are you trying to work so hard? Well, why are you trying to do this? Well, I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to get it back. Well, you know, what about your demonic philosophy? Right? If it's too much of a struggle, right, you leave it behind, right? Wait a second. That doesn't mesh well with what you were just saying when times were good. I don't like to confront things because, if I've had to say it, if I had to do it, if I had to work at it, then, that relationship, if I go through a speed bump, I just throw them out the car. If they fart the wrong way and the wind blows my way, I just leave them on the corner. If they have a bad day and I have a bad day, I just say, forget it. We're done. It's over with. And then you realize, look, the individualism, it propagates, it promulgates, it permeates within the culture. And then all of that foolishness leads to death and destruction. And this is where we are at right now as a nation. This is why the nations are looking at America like these folks done lost their minds. Let me tell you, when you go to Europe, especially a German country, a European Germanic country, it's a different. That's what I tell you. It's a different set of Europeans. Don't lump all Gentiles in. That's like when we say don't lump all Israelites in. Yeah, don't do that to Gentiles either. Don't do that to Europeans either. Because some Europeans are definitely different than others. They understand it. They look at this. They look at this nation as in complete shock and horror and disbelief. Because you want to know why they look at that? Because they understand. They understand, look, I had family members, I had cousins that came on over here. They wanted to what? Live the American dream. And what was the American dream? Think about this. Let's be real. Let's be honest. The American dream is I can be on top while I have folks on the bottom. I can have it all while everyone else is suffering. Well, they're just black. Don't worry about it. Oh, when you get your naturalization and everything else, stay away from the black people. Why? Because it's going to make you feel guilty. And don't feel guilty about coming on over here and taking a wealth, having assigned a wealth to you that will be paid back. Sharing in on the pirated and stolen goods. But come on, it's America. Come on. Enjoy yourself. Look, because you may not have to pay it back in your lifetime, but your family may. Your sons and daughters may. Your grandchildren may. Your great grandchildren. See, let me explain this to you. We have seen that's how the Eurocentric model has worked. Do whatever you want because you have freedom. But even Paul said, even though you have freedom, it does come at the cost. Even though you have freedom, it may not benefit you. Because when you think that you are free, you actually put yourself in bondage. You in bondage yourself. You ingratiate yourself. And you don't even understand what you're doing. You don't even understand what you have covenanted with. When you have covenanted with a nation, when you have covenanted with a spirit, when you have covenanted with a stronghold, an enemy. Let me explain this also to this community, especially the ones that listen. We're not warring against flesh and blood. We're warring against the ultimate of the alternate principalities. We look at Revelations and we look at that whore that rides the beast. Oh, it's just a whore. Nope. No, you're fighting against a spiritual Rambo, Arnold Schwarzenegger, alien, predator, it, Candyman, all wrapped into one. All of your darkest, wildest, strongest thoughts and creations of this nation, all wrapped into one. And you're not going to beat it just in the flesh. You're not going to beat it. And so let me go into this one. This is Mark chapter 9, starting at verse 17. Mark 9:17. And one of the multitude answered and said, Master, I have brought unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. And wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and foameth, and gnasheth with his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples that they should cast him out. And they could not. He answered him and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him unto me. And they brought him unto him. And when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed foaming. And he asked his father, How long is it ago since this came unto him? How long has this been happening? And he said, Of a child. So basically since birth. And it oft times it hath cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus said unto him, If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou mine unbelief. And when Jesus saw the people came running, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, Thou deaf and dumb spirit, I charge thee, come out of him, and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried and rent him sword and came out of him. And he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, He's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. When he was coming to the house, so when he came to the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out? Why couldn't we cast him out? And he said unto them, This kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting. You understand, Jesus wasn't just one man. He had people with him. He had his nation with him. He had his people with him. He was building a nation. He was building a people. He understood it's not about me. It's about us. We. See, the problem that this nation has is it's and it's always an I. They always try to say there's no I in team. Oh, yes, there is, especially with this nation. You look at Bill Gates, you look at Jeff Bezos. Look, that's where I want to be. I want to be like that. I. And then guess what? You don't think about the other people that helped to make him successful, that helped to get him to where they want to be, where they're at right now. Because you have to understand, see, the world holds people on pedestals. The Most High holds people to their nation. Don't believe me? Why are the other nations being judged? Not onesies or twosies, the other nations. The whole world is under judgment. And I had to think about this because I was listening to some of the arguments last night. Shout out to Brother Berean on his channel. And their arguments are that prototypical Eurocentric argument. God hasn't just awakened one or two people. He's awakened his nation. Now, whether or not they choose to respond, that's on them. But he's awakened them. He doesn't just work through one man. I'm sorry, he never does. If you look at that, Christ, his miracles wasn't just through one person. Because what was Christ doing? Christ was giving his disciples authority. He said, look, I'm going to let you do this. I'm going to let you do this in my name because we're together in this. Did you say, look, Peter, upon my rock, you will build this church. You're going to build up our people again. You're going to build them up to be an authority again. But first, they have to be in spiritual authority. And when they're in spiritual authority, they can overcome all sorts of spirits. So when you are doing the praying and the fasting, The praying and the fasting, guess what? Now you are going to have the spiritual authority to make the natural submit. See, this is now where we're at because people have lost their minds because they don't understand what the Most High was doing. It's a hard thing, it's a hard prescription to understand. It really is. I'm not going to lie, it really is. Because we've been told, no, you got to do it like this, or we got to look like that, and we got to, work like this. Mm-mm. Because how the world operates is different than how the Most High operates. Because it was always in enmity with what the Most High was trying to do. So you have to understand, we are building our nation again. We are seeing this nation destroying itself. We already knew it was going to destroy itself, but now we're seeing the destruction right now taking place, being carried out. You have to understand there's a spiritual component to everything. First, you're going to see in the spirit, and then you're going to see in the natural. And this is why we have to be careful when it's just we want to talk about us, talk about ourselves all the time, our I, our me, me's. Trust me, I'm the first one on out there. If I see that, my spirit actually convicts me like, oh, I didn't want to say that. Oh, I didn't want to sound like that. Oh, ooh, ah. Did that sound too fleshy? Did that sound this? And I do always try to go back and say, okay, all right, Father, I'm praying that was your word. I pray that I wasn't getting too much, having more of myself than what you required or what you needed. Because there'll be certain days that I'll joke, and then there'll be certain days that this is a serious message where you won't hear any joking. You'll just hear it come straight from the time of urgency that we're living in. So even though we're in an urgent time, guess what? The Most High is still in control. He still is. He's still in control. Don't worry about all the stuff that's happening on out there. The Most High is still in control. We're at that point where we're seeing the Red Sea and we're seeing chariots of Pharaoh. And those chariots of Pharaoh happen to be in refrigerated trucks on the nation's highways right now. We're stuck in it. We're in the middle of it. Family, it's here. It's decision time. What do you want to do? Are you going to murmur and complain about what you see? Or are you going to say, hallelujah? Thank you, our Heavenly Father, Yahuwah, Yahweh is his name through his son, Yeshua HaMashiach. This is something that our ancestors had looked forward to. And in this day, we're standing firm on your promises, not ours. Because it's his kingdom and his will that be done, not ours. See, the moment we try to take ownership for something that the Most High provides, that's where we're lost. That's carnality. And that carnality, it leads to death. So if you really think about the nature of Christmas, that's trying to say that the Most High doesn't provide it. It's someone else. This is the whole point of Christmas and the pagan holidays and the things of that nature. It's real simple. See, this is why I tell you, I don't get on in there. I don't argue. I don't need to because we already know. We don't dumb down the glory of our God. No matter what man says. Because now we're starting to see the problem that man was having trying to have his own doctrines incorporated with the word of the Most High. This is where, and this is how we're seeing things. Because the Most High, he's not a God. He's not an Elohim that will be mocked. Yeah, you're right. The mere fact of Christmas will not send you to hell. But if you're trying to use Christmas to exalt what the Most High provides and provisions, then there's a problem. You may not have Santa Claus, but guess what? Seeing is believing. This is why the Most High said, look, I don't want idols. I don't want you to make idols above or below. I don't want that. Because no matter what we may think, you got to remember, our thoughts are even evil. We may have good intentions, but good intentions are always what? The road to hell is paved with what? With good intentions. And yes, you will be judged in your ignorance. A lot of folks were, and let me equate this to World War II. A lot of folks understood what was going on in the concentration camps. But what were they told? Oh, it's just, we just want to make sure that we have potential combatants rounded up, cordoned up. It was the same thing done in Japan. Excuse me, in America for the Japanese. But they were also hearing the stories of, what they were trying to do and how they're trying to do things. You can debate and argue the numbers for another day. But just because you hear the propaganda and then you hear the rumors, you need to understand what is going on fully. Because you have to remember, when a nation gets judged, they don't care about your ignorance. Now think about this. If this nation gets judged, oh, well, I didn't know. I thought it was a conspiracy. I thought it was this. I thought it was that. See, all these excuses start running out of people's mouths when destruction lingers, when destruction looms. Well, I didn't believe it because, well, they told me not to. Who's your source? Who's your source? See, you also have to remember that's what this nation has always been. The heart of this nation was always being able to sin, but sin in a manner of ignorance. You saw that with living in the plantation. Oh, don't mind the black folks. They love working. That gives them a sense of purpose. They love doing that. Then the Civil War came. Then there was another excuse and another excuse and another excuse and another excuse. And here's the thing: the Most High is tired of the excuses because He let those excuses run its course. Those excuses were meant to condemn the nation. If you haven't already understood that. But sometimes you have to go through the full course of judgment so you can start to understand why things are occurring the way they are. So all the Most High is doing, He's just showing it, putting it in front of your faces. If you haven't seen it now, I don't know when you're going to see it. And you know what? That's not my decision. That's not my call. All I'm doing is saying, thank you, Father, that I have another day out of these limited days in this captivity that I can talk to your people that choose to listen. That I know that you will provide the turnaround in due time. The Most High is a restorer. I already know He's going to restore a lot of things in my life. But I also know that there's a season that you have to put your hand to the plow and move and work and keep going. Nobody likes it when they're called to work. Just like with Solomon, the woodcutters. Every 2 months, 60 days, there's a rotation. And it's your time. It's your time. But you also know that when that time is over with, the Most High richly rewards you. And those rewards aren't just in the carnal. So, family, if you like the content provided from Covenant Awakenings, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, leave a comment. Visit us at covenantawakenings.com. I did a couple things for the site to keep it tied in and integrated. Because as a people and a community of people, we need to be able to flourish as a community. Shout out to Dante for Black History in the Bible and Hebrew Sphere. Even Teo has their teoministries.ning.com. We also have HebrewConnect.tv. And we also are building as a community with other media platforms. See, I believe that the Most High is allowing the foundation, the framework to happen, because even when we get up on out of captivity, it doesn't mean that our work stays here to rot too. That's why we're getting on out of here with great substance. Because if you know how these things are working, look, they have servers now in every single country. So it's good and it's also bad. Hallelujah. Also, if you like to, you can support me on Patreon and also Cash App. On Patreon, I tend to like provide a lot of articles that, and I'll give some analysis on there. And for those folks that always say, "Oh, you don't show your face, you don't have to show your face," well, I do show my face on HebrewSphere.com, and I also have videos for the Patreon members. We just talk. I'll just talk to them and just tell them, what I see happening. Just give them some prophetic insights of what I see. Because I'm not gonna lie, especially on here, the message has to be tailored a certain way, and honestly, the Holy Spirit tells me to say things a certain way because He knows what I'm dealing with. See, even Jesus was able to move through the crowd. They want to put their hands on him. They couldn't. They couldn't touch him because you already knew how to operate in the crowd. It's the same with the Holy Spirit. Look, we know how to operate. And no, it's not hate speech or anything else like that. Look, it's just being able to see and understand and look at things in the manner that the Most High wants us to see. So on this platform, I've always said it. Look, it's to provide a biblical context of this awakening in a contemporary format. So look, as you see it going on, as you see it happening, there's biblical connotations to it. I also have my links provided below, and those are my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So, family, don't get discouraged. This message may have been a little heavy, but that's okay because you got to remember sometimes when the Most High speaks, He's going to deliver, and when He delivers things, you know, it's going to wallop you. But when it does, that's when you get back on up and you say, "Thank you, Father, Hallelujah," because I needed that word, I needed that message, I needed to have that understanding. We're going to get knocked down. I've been knocked down. But guess who also brings us up? It's the Most High that brings us up. We're not going to stay down forever. So as we're going through this little bit of time, just remember, family, it's not like we hadn't said this or hadn't explained this. It's not like this thing just came out of the blue. Mm-mm. This thing was known for years in advance because it had been said. But now, because things had happened, now folks are coming up. Now things are coming up. Now people are declaring. Don't believe me? There are Gentiles now declaring this stuff every single day. Because you want to know why? They listen to this. Look, when you approach folks in love, they're going to respond. Hey, and they'll say that I didn't get it at first because it wasn't approached in love. And what I heard, it sounded like pots and pans banging around spiritually. So it sounded like what? Hate. It sounded like you just hated me. Because why? That's how the enemy wants to operate. I told you. I told you, look, you don't believe me. That's why I was telling you all about how this awakening was sabotaged because of the negative connotation now stereotypes that was had. And now ministries like mine, Teo, Robert, Dante, Pastor Majors, Pastor Kelly, our channels, our teachings, we're now trying to undo decades within this awakening. Because let me tell you, the devil had the head start. The devil knew when his time was up. But you also have to remember, see, the Most High, He'll awaken you when He needs you to be awakened. So I'm not saying that we can't overcome this, and we actually are. The strides are actually there. The camps are actually getting back in line to the spirit, not just the truth, but to the spirit. Because that's why you worship the Most High is in spirit and in truth. Because when we admonish each other in love, love does no wrongs, it has no injuries. You never have heard on my channel, oh, the Gentiles are going to do this, the Gentiles are going to do that. Because no, if you actually think about it, the Gentiles are going to be the strangers. And if the strangers are coming along with us, then guess what's going to happen? There's going to be a what? Another reinstitution of the covenant. Not a new, but another reinstitution. Well, the covenant that the Gentiles are in kinship with Israel. Now, for those heathens, that's a different story. But for those that said, look, I love the Most High and I love His people, I understand it. I understood. I see it. And we're already telling you the setup. Teo was showing y'all the setup. Because it's here, family. It's real. And it's going on as we speak at this very moment. So for them, this is a crucial time. See, they can deal with like the September 11th and stuff like that. Because you want to know why? I just bounce right back. They can't deal with this stuff. This steady decay, this slow crawl of destruction, they can't deal with it. That's what puts them over the edge. For us, we can deal with it. This is in our nature. This is in our bones. Matter of fact, we almost kind of get a certain satisfaction. Like, my ancestors can do this. Shoot, I can do this. This ain't nothing to me. But we got to be careful to not be cocky. Keep our flesh in check. So with that, family, I appreciate you listening. I love you all. I pray for you all, just as I hope that you pray for me, because I know the Most High is doing an incredible work in this day and in this age. So with that said, family, shalom, salama, siemi, shalom. Peace and blessings, Israel.